Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Let's talk about an actual fun show. WWE Most Wanted Treasures. This show rocked. The purpose of this show is that WWE has this gigantic warehouse where they have all of the old gimmicks and stuff that they've used in segments, vignettes, wrestlers' gear. They have old title belts. They have everything in a warehouse somewhere. And they say, like, look, there's all of these things out there that still exist, but we don't have them. And we think that it's better for us to have them than for individual collectors to have them. Because individual collectors, they put them on a shelf, they put them in a box somewhere, they put them on a mannequin or something. We want to be able to get the items so that other people can see it. Basically, Triple H is alluding to there being some type of museum or some type of tour system where you can be able to tour the warehouse or something to that effect. Because otherwise, what he says as far as, well, it was better for us to have them then so that everyone can see it rather than individual collectors. I get that, but at the same time, if you don't have a museum or a Hall of Fame or anything like that, then it's just going to be stuff sitting in a warehouse. It's moving from somebody's basement or their attic into a warehouse, but who knows what they got planned. But that's the entire idea of the show. And Vince McMahon, not Vince McMahon, but Triple H's concept is basically like, look, we're the caretakers of the business. There's all kinds of stuff out there that should be in our warehouse, but it's not. So now we're going to take a bunch of Vince McMahon's money, go out there and find it. And we're going to send wrestlers to do it. So you got Mick Foley in this episode telling the story of all of the different gear that he wore that's missing from the vault. He's, it's a mission to go out and find these items and bring them back to the vault. You obviously pay these people for it and trade or whatever, do whatever you got to do. So it's like Pawn Stars mixed with wrestling history, with backstage stuff, and you get to learn about the fans who are also big collectors. It is everything. It's awesome from beginning to end. And they doing little skits and stuff too, where, one of the funniest skits is Mick Foley basically promised a guy a tour of the warehouse, which is never part of the deal. And Triple H initially said no. But then Foley was like, well, I kind of already promised them. And Triple H was like, oh, God. Since you've already promised them, okay. But like those kinds of things give the show charm. And before I get into like the episode, I want to say this first. This show, the launch of this show, could not have picked a better person to start the show than Mick Foley. Mick Foley is so he's, like I said, he's like the Homer Simpson of pro wrestling. He's the gigantic teddy bear. He's Santa Claus. He's the nicest guy on earth. Foley being the first guy made this so much more fun because he is silly. He's also very personable. He's, he comes in, yes, any wrestler that comes to a collector's house is probably going to have their eyes lighten up. But there is something very natural and charming, and dare I even use the word cute, about Mick Foley. He's very grandfatherly, even though he probably is grandfather age by now. But there's something very grandfatherly about him. Something very nice about him. And that he was the perfect guy to launch this series. Perfect guy. Couldn't think of anything better. Somebody like Stone Cold Steve Austin, you probably would have had too many starstruck fans and stuff like that. Foley was the perfect guy. Foley was perfect. He made this show as far as I'm concerned. I'm actually interested. He set the bar really high as far as interacting with people and, interacting not just with the fans, but also interacting with his co-hosts and also interacting with Stephanie and Vince and Triple H, like just the dynamics. He has so many different dynamics with all these people, and he was still himself and still friendly and still cool. This show rocked, and Foley is a big reason why. All right, so let's get into the episode. I know it took me 4 minutes of prelude to get here, but they showed some of the items that they have in the vault that they recovered. For starters, let's talk about this. They have an archivist now. So there's this guy named Ben Brown. He is the WWE Archivist, and I don't know what year he was hired in, But he's the first ever archivist, which means he is the guy who works in the warehouse and sees and notices what's missing, or what's missing in the warehouse. What do we need that's out there in the world? He's the guy who gets in contact with these collectors to see who has what. And of course, he's the guy who says, hey, I think this guy might have what we're looking for. Go talk to him. You know, he's that guy. Now, the second co-host is AJ Francis, who is apparently training to be a pro wrestler. He's a former pro football player. He played for the practice squad of the Miami Dolphins, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the New York Giants. He actually played games for the New England Patriots, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Washington Redskins. So this guy's only like 30, but he has NFL experience, and now he wants to be a wrestler. I think he's already signed to WWE. And basically, this is like his first gig, is that he's going to be the escort. He's called himself the Robin to the Batman of the wrestler. So he's going to be the guy basically doing the drive-in and everything. So that's basically what's going to be his job. So this was very fun. This was awesome. So we first find out, so they, like Pawn Stars, they have this the valuation. How much is these things worth? You know, or how much do somebody think these things are worth? So they have Undertaker's coffin in the warehouse. It was produced in 1996. They say it's worth about $10,000. Now, that's today. You know, who knows what it'll be worth in the future. Andre the Giant's boots, which they bought at some point in 1996, is worth $30,000. A pair of Andre the Giant's boots. Ring-worn boots, by the way. So it's not just like they're literal boots off his feet. Stuff that's literally ring-worn is worth more money, obviously. So then you have Ted DiBiase's original $1 million belt, which was recorded in 1991, is worth $350,000. It not being worth $1 million is exposing the business. But, I mean, $350,000 for Ted DiBiase's belt is badass. All right, that's a great belt. So then Foley, he was brought in, and basically they talked about all his different gimmicks, all his different personalities, and they gave him a mission to go out and find 2 items: the original Mankind mask, which is what he wore at the beginning of his career, and the original Mr. Sacco, which was born in 1998. So these 2 items are 2 items that he's looking for. The original Mankind mask is no, wait, he's not looking for the Mankind mask. He's looking for the Mankind shirt. I'm sorry. They already have the mask. The mask they found in 2013, it was worth $10,000. The shirt, they're expected to pay somewhere between $7,500 and $9,000 for the shirt. And they're expecting to pay $3,000 to $5,000 for Mr. Sacco. And you know, and to get Foley to do this, they said if he can find these items, he will get to reenact the Mr. Sacco birth segment with Vince McMahon. And this would be a surprise to Vince, because he would not know that they're going to do this. So he was going to have to reenact that whole scene. He wanted to do it, by the way. But the goal is to find Mr. Sacco and to find the original Mankind shirt. So they went to, I believe it was probably Livonia. It was in the Detroit area, to find Steve Moran, who is a wrestling collector. He runs the GWC, the Greatest Wrestling Collection. He just had a massive wall of action figures. The front of his house looked like Walmart. He just had so many action figures. There was so many belts. It was just incredible amounts of stuff in his place. And he was so excited to see Mick. And it was awesome. Like, the guy had been collecting wrestling gear for 30 years. He turned his house into a museum, or a house that he owned. He's probably a rich guy, into a museum, you know? And it was basically a shrine to pro wrestling. It's amazing stuff. Like, this guy could probably make a grip if he was to start like a YouTube channel, paying, having people pay to come in and take pictures and stuff like that. He could probably make a grip. This stuff was great. So they found a Mr. Sacco in Steve Moran's house. And this is where we get like backstory to the stuff. Because now we find that Mick Foley had two different types of sockos. There was sockos that he made, and then there were sockos that Richie Posner made. Now Richie Posner was the guy, he's sort of the Gimmicks R Us guy. And he will always make the TV sockos, which Foley says that he can, this is the reason why the wrestler goes. Well, there's two reasons why the wrestler goes. One, the wrestler goes to authenticate the item. So because they used it, they know whether it's theirs or not, whether it's their real signature and everything or not. But they also go to sort of apply emotional pressure to the collector to give up the item. So it's kind of dirty. So it's like you still got WWE playing heels a little bit because they're sending guys in there. They're like, oh, but it's mine. So like I wore it, kind of, and it's kind of manipulative. it's pretty manipulative, but at the same time, it's a business transaction. Like they're not going to make it, like we saw in this episode, people are not going to make emotional decisions. They spent money on this stuff. They want, value for value. Most of these people are smart. They're not just marks. But anyway, so the Sacco that was in Steve Moran's house was a Richie Posner Sacco, which Foley had already signed it. And he talked about the difference between the Richie Posner Saccos and his Saccos. That Richie Posner Saccos always had a look of surprise. They were circular and always had a goatee. And he asked, Steve Moran, like, how much would you want for this? Like, what's the price for this thing? And Moran was like, look, I don't want anything. Like, I just want you to meet my kids. Like, if you just stay here for a little while and meet the kids, I'll call the kids over, spend some time with them, take some pictures. That's it. That's all we need. And Foley did it. He stood there for the kids. He played around with the kids for a little while. And the guy essentially just donated the Richie Posner Sacco. So that was really cool. That was really fucking cool of him. He could have took the money and the pictures, but he just wanted to donate the thing because he was so happy Foley was there. And it was pretty cool. Now, the second guy, they were looking for something else. But I guess Ben Brown had called them and said, oh, yeah, this guy's got an original Cactus Jack vest. So they went to New Jersey where they met this guy named David Chuddy or David Chuddy. I don't forget how his name is pronounced. He's also a wrestling collector. He had tons of gear, like ring-worn gear. Like he had, I think, Kurt Angle's gear. He had some bunch of other people's gear, like hanging from the walls of his house. It was awesome. He had a lot of Mankind stuff because he was a big Mick Foley fan. So he had like one of the original Mankind shirts, not the shirt they were looking for, but a second. How would you call it? One of the button-up Mankind shirts, one of the white shirts, not one of the original brown shirts, which is what they're looking for. And in a box, he had the original Cactus Jack vest, a ring-worn Cactus Jack vest that he had worn numerous times throughout his career. And Foley was like, "Look, we got to get this. It wasn't on the list of things that we need, but we found this at this guy's house. Like, we got to get it." So the guy didn't want to sell it. The guy was offered, I believe, $7,500 or $2,500 or whatever, and he was like, "No, this thing is priceless." And I saw so many people on Twitter that was fuming at this guy. They were fuming at the guy. Now, I want to defend him because, you do haggle. You got to haggle. Got to get what you can. If WWE is willing to send Mick Foley out there to talk to you personally, you probably got something that they really want. But at the same time, it was in a box, unprotected. If it was framed or something like that, hanging from the wall, then maybe, yeah, but it was like in a box, unprotected, like a regular dirty shirt. So it was like, what the hell? Anyway, they talked and they haggled. The guy was basically like the shirt is, the vest is entirely priceless. I cannot part with it. I just can't. And then so Foley says, look, how about this? How about we propose a trade? I will get you into the WWE warehouse, and you'll get to pick something in the warehouse, because that's what the guy wanted. He wanted to trade something. He's like, my Cactus Jack collection, my Mick Foley collection, I can't part with this vest. So then he says, well, if you can find something to replace it, I'll be willing to take that. So then, of course, that meant he had to go into the warehouse. So this is where they called Triple H. And he basically told Triple H, like, I found the Cactus Jack vest. This is an original Cactus Jack vest. But, he's not going to let us buy it from him. We have to trade for it. And then, he's like, I kind of told the guy, I can make it happen that he can come to the warehouse, get a tour of the warehouse, and he gets to pick something out of the warehouse to trade. And Triple H was like, what? like the point is for us to bring the stuff here, not to bring the guys here. And Foley was like, I kind of already told him I could do it. And Triple H was like, oh, all right, we'll do that, and we'll do the trade. So they let the guy come to the warehouse. He got a tour of the warehouse. He got to lay in the Undertaker's casket, and he got to basically walk around and take in the gigantic SmackDown fist and all of the cool stuff that was there. And then he saw what he wanted to trade for the vest, and that was the original barbed wire 2x4 from Cactus Jack Mick Foley versus Triple H, Royal Rumble 2000. They still had the flaming barbed wire the barbed wire 2x4. They still had it, and he wanted that for the Cactus Jack vest. And so that created like a lot of tension, because they're like, oh, that's an original. That's a one of one. Like, I don't know if we can part with that. And then he kept saying, like, the vest is like, you've worn it numerous times throughout your career. You've worn it post-retirement. You wore it before your retirement. It might be worth more than, this 2x4. And eventually they made Ben Brown made the decision, because he wants to build a relationship with this guy. So he's like, okay, sure, we'll do it. So the guy, in exchange for the Cactus Jack vest, he got a warehouse tour, a barbed wire 2x4 which was actually used in a match, and he got $2,500. So he didn't do too bad as far as haggling and everything is concerned. He's a tough businessman. But they got the Cactus Jack vest, which is something they wasn't really looking for. And to be quite honest, was the Cactus Jack barbed wire 2x4 worth more than the vest? I don't know if the vest was signed or not. I think he said he bought it from a auction. And I don't know, man. Maybe I would have taken the vest. All right, so the last place they went was to Indiana, to a guy named Tim Jemison, who was a wrestling collector. He had tons of posters and T-shirts and ring-worn gear. He also had a Rob Schamberger, Bret Hart painting on the wall, which is pretty dope. He'd been a wrestling fan since the 80s. And he said basically he started collecting because he thought that these items, the gear, the posters, the title belts, all this type of stuff needed to be preserved. And that, he didn't want people throwing it away. He didn't want people, throwing it in the garbage. So he wanted to get it and to cherish these items because it meant so much to him as a kid growing up. So he said he wanted to keep them. And it was here that they found the original Mankind shirt from 1996, the shirt that he debuted in. And Foley says he knew that shirt upon seeing it because it is ring damaged. In other words, he said he wore that shirt for his first few matches with Undertaker. And so the shirt was really damaged. And you could see it, and it looked shredded. Like it had like some shreds to it. And then Foley talked about how he came up with the cross, and he drew the cross and all that kind of stuff to go with the shirt. And And he told the story of the original Mankind mask, which was apparently going to be the mask that came with Undertaker. So back in 1995, Undertaker's orbital bone got crushed by Mabel, who crushed it with, I think, a leg drop. And this was around the time he was wearing his Phantom of the Opera gimmick. But the original idea was him to wear a mask that was similar to, well, that was the Mankind mask. That was the original Undertaker mask. But when they decided to go with the Phantom of the Opera look, they just had this weird mask and they didn't have, anywhere for it to go. And they even showed the concept art of the Undertaker character wearing that mask. That's what they wanted at first. And then basically when they hired Foley, they was like, okay, we already got the mask. We just need somebody to put it on. And so they put it on him. But it just has such memories. The mask and the shirt has such memories for him, and he really wanted the shirt. And they asked the guy $7,500 for the shirt, and the guy said no. The guy was like, I don't think I can give it away. Like, it's an important part of my life. He had it on a mannequin. Like, it wasn't in a box somewhere. It wasn't framed on the wall. It was dangled. It was on a mannequin. He had it so people could see it. It was in his basement, though. Like, it was in his basement. These guys have turned parts of their house into wrestling shrines. He had some Shawn Michaels gear down there. He had Diesel gear down there. And I'm guessing this is ring-worn gear. So he really wanted this Mankind shirt. He really wanted to keep it. So Foley said, all right, how about this? $7,500 plus I will personally watch any show with you that you want to watch. Like any pay-per-view event that you want to watch, I will come here on my own dime. Sit here and watch it with you. Only thing I ask is that, and then of course he added that Vince McMahon pays for the pizza and the beer, and the guy was like, you'll watch anything? And he was like, sure, anything. And then the guy agreed. $7,500 and a Mick Foley viewing party got them the original Mankind shirt. So that was awesome. For the record, I know sometimes people ask the question like, why do they not have this stuff? Well, the thing is, the gear and all that stuff is owned by the wrestler. So if the wrestler sometimes will donate things to charity, and then the charity will sell it, and they'll sell it to one of these private collectors, and then WWE has to chase down the private collector to get the thing back. So sometimes the wrestler keeps their stuff. Like, I think there was recently a documentary where Bianca Belair showed that she kept all of her gear. Like, she just boxes it. Sting has a lot of his old stuff too. But sometimes they do sell it. Sometimes they do sell these things. Sometimes they get low on money, and so they sell belts, or they'll sell their boots, or they'll sell something. You often see female wrestlers, step almost right out of the ring and then start selling their gear because there's people out there willing to buy it. And so that's really why there's so much like ring-worn gear, ring-worn boots, stuff like that are out there, because guys, they donate it to charity, and then the charity sells it to make money, or sometimes they'll sell it to make money themselves because they need money, and that kind of thing. So, having completed their mission, they got the Mr. Sacco, the Richie Posner Sacco that they were looking for, which is I don't think it was the original Mr. Sacco, because I think they were looking for the Mr. Sacco that Mankind originally drew. That was in the first segment. But they got the Richie Posner Sacco, which is the ones that was on Raw and SmackDown. He drew the TV Saccos. And they got the Cactus Jack vest, which they weren't really even looking for, and they got the original Mankind shirt, which they were looking for. And because Mick Foley completed his goal, he got to reenact the birth of Mr. Sacco with Vince McMahon. So Stephanie put him up to this and knocked on the door, and Foley goes into the room, and Vince is just perturbed. He is absolutely like, oh God. Because he's in there with the balloons. He's doing a Mr. Sacco. He's on the floor under the table and everything. And Vince is like, all right. That's enough of this. He gives him the chocolates because he knows Vince has a sweet tooth. Vince opens up the chocolates. There's like 4 chocolates missing. It's so ridiculous. And Vince is just muttering this whole time. I can't believe this. What are you doing here? What is this? All right, and the segment ends, of course, with Foley getting the big hug, and Stephanie admitting that she's spending Vince's money retrieving artifacts, and Vince is like, well, whatever. It's just like whatever. So this was great. This was a successful launch. I love this. This is a great show, man. And this is obviously another one of those Stephanie McMahon ideas, because as the chief brand officer, it is her job to go out there and do stuff like this. And this is great. It basically just took Pawn Stars and made it a WWE show. And it works. And now they also got something for the legends to do. You know, now you got all these old guys who are under contract. Now they got to go out and find their own stuff. And that's not even their own stuff, because they got Big Show and Mark Henry going out to get Andre's stuff. They went out there. There's going to be an episode of this show with Mark Henry and Big Show going out to find Andre the Giant's casket. That's going to fucking rule. Because Big Show was basically crying, like, right there. And Mark Henry. Like, that's going to fucking rule. They're going to have Undertaker and Kane on there, I think, next week. So this show rocked. This show was great. Let me know what you thought if you watched it in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Also, go into the description. Follow me on Twitter, send cash via Cash App, or subscribe star if you prefer. Thank you for your time, and I'll talk to you guys later, man.